With the GLP-1 drugs, the dominant side effects are GI, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal discomfort, and dose dependent. Of Calocurb, it's a natural, it's mealtime supplement that can blunt hunger and cravings via the gut-brain axis. Its side effects are mild and transient. It's easy to try since no prescription is needed. And Calocurb may be a useful adjunct or bridge for patients who want a more natural approach or who cannot tolerate the GLP-1 drugs. And since Calocurb is natural, it can be combined with other metabolic interventions like diet and exercise and even GLP-1 meds. Hey team, welcome into my channel. Lisa Tamati here. Fabulous to have you with me. And today I'm going to be talking about weight loss. And in particular, I'm going to be talking about GLP-1 agonists. And I'm going to also be talking about a herbal supplement called Calocurb, which has Amarasate from New Zealand, which is a hop extract. And I'm going to be doing a bit of comparison between these two options that you might have for weight loss and what you might need to know about them. So yeah, we're going to dig into the research that's available and do a comparison between all of the GLP-1 agonists and between that and Calocurb. So, you know, we're all looking for ways to optimize our weight, and many people struggle with their weight, especially as we get older and we have hormonal changes. And, you know, this is just one way to approach it. There is many more ways, and hormones is a big factor, and doing the right training and genetics so that you understand your genes as to how to optimize your diet, your lifestyle, your training, etc., to optimize your weight. And as someone who's, you know, struggled with my weight when I was younger and did extreme amounts of running in order to control my weight, which was the exact wrong thing to do, you know, I've been on a bit of a journey, and so I love to share information that can help you sort of crack the code on your body. And now at the age of 56, you know, I don't have any problems with my weight currently, and I haven't had for decades since I dialed in my genetics, my training, my diet, my supplement regime, my hormones. All of those pieces of the puzzle come into it. But today we're just going to focus on a part of the puzzle, and these are two sort of things that could help you with your weight loss journey. So Calocurb, what is it? It's an Amarasate, Amarasate hop extract, which is from New Zealand. And it's a natural appetite suppressant and a GLP-1 activator. And that's like the peptides, right? The GLP-1 activators, or agonists as they're called, is something that you would have heard maybe a lot about in the biohacking and longevity world. Well, Calocurb is a herbal supplement, a pill that you can take that does this same sort of thing. So Calocurb is a botanical supplement, and the active ingredient, Amarasate, is designed to trigger the body's own satiety hormones. And research shows that Amarasate activates bitter taste receptors, known as TAS2RS, on the enteroendocrine cells in the gut. And this causes a secretion of CCK, GLP-1, and PYY. Now, these are just big names, but what they mean is these are key hormones that signal fullness to the brain, that you are full, you don't need any more food, via the gut-brain axis. And in a controlled trial, Amarasate increased post-meal CCK by almost sixfold over baseline, while also boosting the GLP-1 and the PYY. Now, these gut hormones work together to slow gastric emptying, enhance insulin release when needed, and signal the brain to reduce hunger and the cravings. And by contrast, the pharmaceutical GLP-1 agonists, they provide a steady which means above normal sort of supraphysiologic hormone signal, often by injection, whereas Calocurb augments the body's endogenous GLP-1 and CCK rhythm in response to meals, and it's just a pill, which is nicer to take, right? Clinically, Calocurb has been shown to blunt hunger signals and reduce intake of food, and in a randomized trial of fasting men, both high and low dose Amarasate significantly cut hunger ratings and cravings versus a placebo. In another study with fasting women, those taking Amarasate 125 milligrams or 250 milligrams twice before meals reported markedly lower appetite and cravings than the placebo group. The energy intake was also significantly reduced. For example, one study found that a 14 to 18% decrease in calories were consumed at a meal after the Amarasate versus the placebo. And this aligns with the lab trials where GI delivery of the bitter hops cut men's energy intake by 18% while elevating their CCK and their GLP-1 and PYY levels. Now, in short, Amarasate's bitter break effect reliably lowers the hunger and the cravings and modestly reduces calorie intake by 15 to 18% in the short term. Now, the metabolic effects of this is by amplifying gut hormones. Calocurb has glucose and insulin sparring effects, and in healthy volunteer trials, Amarasate reduced post-meal insulin and GIP levels, despite similar blood glucose, suggesting improved insulin efficiency. Now, we get more insulin resistant as we get older, so something that's going to improve insulin efficiency is a very good thing. No significant changes in blood sugar were observed, but lower insulin responses hinted at better metabolic flexibility, much like GLP-1 agonists achieve over time. So users also report fewer food cravings, especially for sweets, and likely reflect the satiety hormone surge that's happening. From a safety perspective, Calocurb's only ingredients are Amarasate, it's a hard word to say, rosemary extract, which I'm a fan of. We have rosemary extract in one of our formulations, Rejuvenate Pro at Avon Labs. That's an incredible extract that upregulates your endogenous NRF2 pathways, very antioxidant. Really a brilliant thing to have in it, and oil. So all are generally recognized as safe, so those are the only things that are in it. Clinical trials and post-market use show mild transient GI effects in a small minority that were things like loose stools or mild nausea that typically resolved within days of starting. And in studies, only a few subjects on the Amarasate reported loose stool or heartburn, and none had serious events. So overall, the side effects are far less frequent and severe than the GLP-1 drugs, and most users tolerate Calocurb very well with minimal discomfort. Because bitter compounds can modulate the gut microbiome and inflammation, Amarasate might have ancillary benefits. This is an area of active research as well, and some hop compounds have anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties, which will be interesting to see what they come out with there. So keep an eye on the space, but specific data on Amarasate for gut health or cognition are not yet published. A large trial is now underway, testing Amarasate in obese patients over 6 months, measuring weight and glycemic markers and more. And GLP-1 agonists and peptides are something that you can compare to this data. So as it comes out, you might want to do a comparison. So now let's talk about how they compare this Calocurb with GLP-1 agonists, the drugs and the peptides. So we've got a summary of the GLP-1s based, these obesity drugs that are very, very popular. The first one is semaglutide, or also known under the name of Ozempic or Wegovy. And this is a long-acting GLP-1 receptor agonist, typically a weekly injection. It mimics the GLP-1 to slow gastric emptying, suppresses appetite, and enhances insulin secretion. And in step 1, which was a 68-week trial, semaglutide at 2.4 milligrams yielded a 14.9% mean weight loss versus 2.4% for the placebo group over the same time. Over 80% of the patients lost over 5% or more of their body weight, and 50% lost over 15% of their body weight. Now, beyond weight, semaglutide improves glycemic control and cardiovascular risk factors. And a study showed that it reduced major cardiovascular events, which is really exciting. common side effects are GI sort of things like nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting. And these are usually mild to moderate, and they taper off over time as you get used to it. Discontinuation because of these issues was around the 4 to 5% of people had to discontinue. Now, these drugs are very expensive. They're, $1,000+ a month, and they require prescriptions mostly in most countries. And in contrast, Calocurb's got a fleeting 3 to 4 hour effect, so you have to have it more often. But it's a herbal supplement. Now, semaglutide levels are steady over a whole week as opposed to having to take it all the time, and so it's often causing more persistent GI effects because of that as well. So something to take into account. Now, there's another GLP called liraglutide, or also known as Saxenda or Victoza, and that's a daily GLP-1 analog injection. 3 milligram dose for weight. And in a 56-week randomized controlled trial, liraglutide led to a mean 8% weight loss versus 2.6% on placebo. About 33% lost more than 10% of their body weight. And liraglutide also improves blood sugar and was shown in the leader trial to reduce cardiovascular events in diabetics. The gastrointestinal side effects were nausea and diarrhea again, and these are common but generally mild. And compared to semaglutide, liraglutide's weight loss is smaller, and it does require daily shots as opposed to the weekly. It likewise costs hundreds to even thousands per month, depending on where you are, and has similar tolerability issues. Tirzepatide is the third one we'll look at, which is Mounjaro, also known as Mounjaro. But this is again a once weekly injection that agonizes both the GIP and the GLP-1 receptors. And in the Surmount Trial 1, which was a 72-week trial, tirzepatide produced really remarkable weight loss. The mean was 20.9% at 15 milligrams and 19.5% at the 10 milligrams, and versus a minus 3.1% for the placebo. Half of the patients on the 10 to 15 milligram reached more than 20% weight reduction, which is fantastic. It also powerfully improves glucose control and all the cardiometabolic markers, lipids, blood pressure, etc. The price and the GI side effects profile are similar to the GLP-1 peptides and drugs, and nausea, diarrhea were, especially during dose escalation, were the complaints and the side effects from this. About 6 to 7% discontinued the drug due to the side effects at higher doses. And like Calocurb, tirzepatide stimulates endogenous insulin release, but tirzepatide's hormone levels are pharmacological, not following natural meal timing. The fourth one we're going to look at is retatrutide, and I've tried this one, and an investigational weekly injection that is a triple agonist, a GIP and a GLP-1 and glucagon receptors. And in a phase 2 trial, 48 weeks long, retatrutide showed dosing between 1 and 24% weight loss, up to 24.2% mean weight loss at the highest dose. And over 80% of those on more than 8 milligrams lost 20% or more of their body weight. I've had also family members on retatrutide, and they've had remarkable weight loss on retatrutide. Retatrutide also causes dose-dependent GI upsets, as do the other ones, and elevated heart rate at higher doses. I've noticed this on myself. I actually did very low doses more for the health benefits than for the weight loss benefits, but I like to try things out on myself. I found that my HRV dropped and my heart rate went up, but then I'm quite lean and I have a lot of stress in my life, and my adrenals are not, optimal. And I think that's probably had an effect. So I've actually cut it out, but that's something just to note. So elevated heart rate could happen at higher doses. It's not yet approved, and its cost and access is still difficult. It would be likely to be similarly expensive, and it will be an injectable. The mechanisms, when they're compared, all the GLP-1 agonist drugs directly activate GLP-1 receptors, and GIP and glucagon receptors for tirzepatide and retatrutide systemically, and they're overriding the gut's natural signaling. They induce a steady state level of incretin activity, and in contrast, Calocurb simply releases the body's own GLP-1 and CCK and PYY in response to food, maintaining more sort of normal hormonal rhythms. So in practical terms, semaglutide and the others keep the GLP-1 on all the time, whereas Calocurb gives a mealtime boost. And this may explain why the GLP-1 drugs often have more pronounced GI side effects because they're longer acting, and better weight loss because you're having to take this more often. Now, their pharmacologic signaling is much stronger than the physiological pulses. And notably, Calocurb's effect lasts only a few hours after dosing, so it must be taken before meals, where the GLP-1 drugs act continuously. The clinical efficacy and weight loss. So Calocurb actual weight loss trials are still pending, but the existing data showed reduced hunger and intake, but there's no published long-term weight results yet. And early human studies focused on appetite rather than weight. A larger 6-month weight loss trial is underway, but it's not yet published, and we can only infer potential effects from the appetite suppression and probably modest weight loss. On the semaglutide Wegovy front, 15% mean loss at 68 to 72 weeks, and liraglutide or Saxenda, 8% mean loss at 56 weeks. Tirzepatide Mounjaro was very strong at 21% mean loss at 15 milligrams at 72 weeks, and retatrutide, which is 20 is the strongest at 24% mean loss at 48 weeks. Now, benefits beyond weight. Insulin and glucose, GLP-1 drugs powerfully improve insulin sensitivity and glycemic control. Semaglutide, liraglutide, and tirzepatide are all FDA approved for type 2 diabetes in lower or similar doses, and greatly reduce the HbA1c, which is a marker of your blood glucose levels, say over the last 3 months. It's sort of looking at an average. They also reduce fasting insulin needs. And Calocurb's trials hint at improved postprandial insulin efficiency, lower insulin levels with similar glucose, but robust diabetes outcomes with Calocurb are not yet demonstrated. Cardiovascular, semaglutide and liraglutide have shown cardiovascular risk reduction in large trials, the SUSTAIN 6 and the LEADER trial, and some data suggests that tirzepatide may also lower cardiovascular events, and by contrast, Calocurb has no cardiovascular data yet. Any heart protective benefits would be indirect and not yet proven, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't have, from a mechanistic point of view, will probably have a beneficial effect. Brain and cognition, the GLP-1 crosses the blood-brain barrier and has neuroprotective effects. The trials are underway for Alzheimer's disease, which is super exciting. There's no evidence that Calocurb, on the other hand, the hops extract, confers brain benefits beyond those of improved metabolic health. But again, we just need more trials. These things take time. Calocurb hasn't been around that long. And anything that's going to improve you metabolically is going to probably have a positive impact on being neuroprotective. So, again, it's a watch this space scenario, but yeah, interesting and would likely have some benefits, I would surmise, but it's just my opinion. Inflammation and gut health, GLP-1 analogs modestly reduce inflammatory markers and improve fatty liver. And hops contain anti-inflammatory compounds, but no clinical data link Amarasate to reduce inflammation or altered gut microbiota. One preclinical report suggests a hops-derived compound can modify gut bacteria, but specific effects of Calocurb on gut ecology are not yet documented. Side effects and tolerability. Calocurb in trials, side effects were rare and mild. A small number of users reported loose stools or mild nausea during the first few days of titration, and these GI effects are usually short-lived and lessen with gradual dose escalation, and no serious effects, adverse events have been reported. With the GLP-1 drugs, the dominant side effects are GI, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal discomfort, and dose-dependent. And in step 1 trial, semaglutide's nausea and diarrhea were usually mild to moderate, with 4.5% dropping out to the GI due to the GI events. Liraglutide had similar profiles. Tirzepatide also caused GI upset, leading to 6 to 7% discontinuation at higher doses. And other side effects include potential injection site reactions and rarely pancreatitis or gallbladder issues. So if you have a history of pancreatitis or gallbladder issues, you may want to back off that. Or, this should be always, as usual, done with a doctor, done with a medical professional who's trained in this, and do seek medical advice. And this is for educational purposes only, okay? In general, Calocurb's side effect burden is much lighter, which may improve patient comfort. You also hear reports of people who have had major weight loss on the GLP-1 agonist. They're losing muscle mass. They get that, face where they lost too much weight. If you are doing any of these GLP-1 agonists, you have to do it correctly. That means that you have to make sure that you're still eating your protein, that you're still getting your food in that you need, right? If you stop eating altogether, well, of course you're going to lose weight, and of course you're going to lose muscle. It's just logic. It's not the blame of the drug. It's just you need to have counseling around what you should be doing in a lifestyle perspective. You need to continue your training. You need to make sure that you're still doing your weight training or your resistance training to maintain your muscle mass. While you're on these things, you may need to make sure that you have your protein intake at an adequate level. Otherwise, you could run into problems there. So that's just a caveat. Cost and accessibility. Calocurb is so much more accessible. I do have a link down below if you want to check it out and get some. It's a herbal supplement. It's far less expensive. It's easier to access. It's not a prescription drug. And a month's supply runs in the order of, tens of dollars, not hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, depending on where you come from. But, check out the link down below. Whereas the GLP-1 medications are, of course, very, very expensive, mostly with a prescription in most countries, and making it, more inaccessible and harder for people to get. They are, in the range of roughly $1,000 to $1,300 a month. So, a lot. So from a practitioner's take-home perspective, the pros of Calocurb: it's a natural, it's mealtime supplement that can blunt hunger and cravings via the gut-brain axis. Its side effects are mild and transient. It's easy to try since no prescription is needed. And Calocurb may be a useful adjunct or bridge for patients who want a more natural approach or who cannot tolerate the GLP-1 drugs. It may also help step down from GLP-1 therapy, which I think is an interesting one, because eventually you're going to want to come off GLP-1 without putting the weight back on, and this could be a step down for you. By retraining the gut to release its own satiety signals, and Calocurb can ease the transition off the injections. The cons of Calocurb: so far the weight loss outcomes are modest and not yet quantified in large trials. Its effects are shorter lived, so you have to have this often, and it must be timed carefully before meals. It won't match the dramatic weight loss of the GLP-1 agonist. Also, as a supplement, it lacks regulatory approval for medical claims, which, no comment. And the scientific evidence is still emerging, but it is very, very promising. And, at the end of the day, apart from the money, what have you got to lose? Pros of the GLP-1s: proven potent weight loss between 15 and 25% in major trials, and robust improvements in metabolic health. They reduce blood sugar, improve insulin sensitivity. These are major factors for people's health. These are major longevity things. Like if you can improve your metabolic health, if you can improve your insulin sensitivity, you are going to have much better chances of just a longer, healthier life overall. So it's something to be considering. Some of them have the documented cardiovascular benefits as well, which is exciting. And for patients with severe obesity or diabetes, these agents can be really life-changing. And not only for them, they can be life-changing for other people just wanting to lose weight who are really struggling. The cons of the GLP-1s: obviously the high cost, its injection, and the common GI side effects, and access is restricted, and long-term adherence can be a challenge due to the tolerability, and they also carry the risk of regain when you're discontinued. And so you have to use these to reteach yourself about what is a good lifestyle. I'm a huge fan of doing genetic testing. I do that in my practice so that you understand what time of the day you should be eating, how much you should be eating, what food you should be eating, in order to use this to help you as a crutch, if you like, but then, reprogram yourself while you don't have the cravings and you don't have the problems that, we all associate with when you eat bad, you want to eat even better. If that's a word. So use this as a way to change your lifestyle and you'll change your approach to your diet and things. And where Calocurb fits, for the biohacker or the patient interested in metabolic health, Calocurb could be an early step or adjunct intervention. For example, a person starting a diet and struggling to do that, or fasting program, they might use Calocurb to reduce the hunger pangs, because we all know at the beginning of the diet or the beginning of the fast is the hardest time. And in a clinical protocol, one might begin Calocurb along lifestyle changes and reserve the GLP-1 agonists for those needing more aggressive therapy. Clinicians report using Calocurb to transition their patients off the GLP-1 drugs, helping restore endogenous GLP-1 and CCK signaling and prevent the rebound weight gain. And starting Calocurb slowly, 1 capsule a day, and titrating up to 2 capsules before meals as tolerated, and advising patients to expect mild GI adjustments initially, and that's normal, in emphasizing its use before meals, 1 to 2 hours prior to your meal, to activate gut hormones. Monitor your weight and hunger. Some patients will find 1 to 2 capsules a day is enough, while others may need the full recommended dose. And since Calocurb is natural, it can be combined with other metabolic interventions like diet and exercise and even GLP-1 meds to create a holistic biohacking style regimen. So Calocurb offers a gentle food-based way to tap into your body's appetite regulation system, with evidence for reduced hunger, cravings, and calorie intake. And GLP-1 therapies remain far more powerful for weight loss and metabolic disease, but at the cost of side effects and expenses and accessibility issues. So for practitioners and health-minded individuals, I think Calocurb could be a really useful tool in the arsenal. And again, I've tried it out. I've used it. It's a less not as potent, as you say, with the GLP-1s, but still very effective over the term. So you have to take it for a longer period of time, and you have to you know use it to modify your diet and your lifestyle, but it will make it easier for you to do that, especially for those seeking natural and adjunctive therapies. And while understanding some of its limitations, and that the strong evidence for weight loss is still, coming out. We'll put all the trials down below, and I hope you enjoyed this. And if you've gotten this far, you must enjoy the channel. So please make sure that you do subscribe, you hit the notification bell, and share this content with one other person, just one other person that might need this information. And make sure that you check out my podcast as well, Pushing the Limits, and give us a comment down below if you want me to ask me anything about the Calocurb or the GLP-1 agonist, or if you're wanting another particular topic that you think would be good for me to cover next, please let me know. Okay, thanks guys. See you soon.